Alright, one of the next things people get in a hurry on learning how to kayak is they go, I need to know my role. Yes, you do. You need to know your role. It's probably the number one safety skill that you will learn when kayaking. Because being in your boat, being able to correct mistakes, and coming back up after you flip over is safer than ejecting and swimming a rapid and possibly losing your gear. So, when you're all set up and you need to roll, we're going to boil this down to 3 simple moves. There's dozens of ways to roll, and I tell people this all the time. It doesn't matter how you roll as long as you can roll. There are good techniques and there are poor techniques. But all the techniques, no matter what kind of roll you do, have 3 basic elements in common. And those common denominators is what I'm going to teach you today. I've taken this technique and I've taught it to people who have never ever rolled a kayak before, and they've literally been able to roll their boat within an hour successfully on their own, and multiple times after that. I've taught people who have had multiple kayak lessons learning how to roll and never got their roll, and tried my roll, and it is more difficult for them to learn versus somebody who didn't ever have a class before, because now they have to kind of unlearn some of the things they were taught and be able to boil it down to this simple technique. I call this technique the scoop and turn, and it's literally that simple. You don't have to worry about big sweeps. You don't have to worry about getting your hip throw just right. You just have to lock your knees in your boat, scoop and turn. And I'm going to show you the basic fundamentals of that. Okay, so I'm not going to put my spray skirt on. You have your paddle. Okay, paddling along, you flip over, okay, and then you're like, what do I do? Okay, simple technique. And this technique I developed because I was teaching a lot of people my generation and older, or people who have had injuries and don't have that back flexibility to do a rear deck sweep or lay on the back of their kayak. This eliminates all of that, and it gives you the ability to roll your kayak from any position that you find yourself in the water. Whether you're blown out on the back deck, on the side, or forward, you can roll your kayak with this thing. And it's really simple. Grab your kayak, you want it, your elbows in. When you're going for your setup, it's knuckles out, knuckles up, that's the scoop part, looking at the blade that's in the front and tracking it all the way to the back. That's the turn. So it's scoop, turn. And you do it all in one motion, so it's going to look like this underwater. Avoid practicing your roll by doing this, thinking that that is a technique, because remember, you're upside down, so now what's up here is actually deeper in the water. So if you do this and you throw this blade way out like that, you're actually driving your blade deep underwater. You don't want that, because you want to keep your blade at the surface or as close to the surface as possible. This blade is your working blade. So with the scoop and turn technique, as you are scooping and turning, your kayak is literally starting to orientate and make the roll on its own. And once you're here, you should be up. If you're not up, the simple way to finish your roll is not fall over again, but readjust your hands by cocking your knuckles back and doing a forward sit, sliding this blade across the water, and your boat will more than likely automatically right itself. Okay, so scoop, turn. It's all one motion. Knuckles down, knuckles up as you rotate, keeping your eyes on that front paddle. And when you come up, you should be in this position, not way back here. Because in whitewater, when you're on the back deck of your boat, your boat is at its most unstable. So if you come up right here and don't make it all the way up and you're here, guess what? You're in the game again. You're back on the throttle. You're back on taking care of yourself, doing what you got to do. If you're way back here, your boat becomes unstable. More than likely, if you don't get up and sit forward right away, you're going to flip back over, and that's really frustrating for beginners. Frustrating for the guys who've been doing it too. So remember, you can roll from here, you can roll from here, you can roll from here. Trick is eyes on your forward blade, knuckles down, knuckles up as you rotate, eyes on that blade the whole way through. That is the simplest technique to learn how to roll your boat. Remember to keep your knees locked in, boat's attached to your hip, and you're going to make the rotation. Now the other thing you need to remember is keep your head there, not going for air. Because once you throw your head up, it takes your shoulders and your hips and it makes it do other things. Your hips are essentially attached to your boat. So whatever your hips do, whatever your leg throw does, is going to be associated to how well you're connected with your hips. Your shoulders, on the other hand, work opposite of your hips. So as you can see, if I edge my boat, you can see by the orientation of this paddle with me trying to keep it level, it's doing the opposite of what my hips are doing. That being said, why is that important? Because if I start to fall, let's say to my right, and I freak out, and I lean to my left, bringing my shoulders to my left, look what my hips are doing. They're dumping my boat over. So what I want to do is I want to take the paddle blade that's on the side that I'm tipping to, make a stroke, whether it's a sweep stroke or just a stroke, and I want to keep it in motion and orient my shoulders towards that. And in doing that, it levels off my boat and I can just come back and paddle. So instead of going, ah, and falling in, level off your boat. I can get way over here with my body and my blade and level off, and my boat stays level. But as soon as I freak out because I don't want to fall in and I try to get away from the direction of the fall, see what happens to the boat? It dumps me over. So there's no such thing as a tippy boat, just tippy paddlers. So remember, scoop and turn. Eyes on the prize, and you're right there. Don't make it all the way up. Re-angle your blade, sit forward. And you can do this multiple times until you get up. So that is my technique for paddling, learning how to roll. Doesn't matter if you have a bent shaft, same technique. Get the paddle in the right direction, scoop, turn. Doesn't matter if you have a straight shaft, here. So having your hands on the paddle in the correct position is important too, because once you come out of this scoop, see the angle of the front leading edge of my blade needs to be slightly up. That creates lift. It's like an airplane wing. If you want to climb, okay, you climb. If you want to dive, you dive. So if I do this technique wrong and I rotate this paddle with my leading edge down, my paddle is not going to do any lifting for me. So I want to make sure that I'm right there, right there. This leading edge is up, this is down. It skis or skims the water, okay? Knife edge slicing through. That is all the techniques on whatever kind of roll that you do. The common denominator, is those three moves. Knuckles down, knuckles up, and rotating at the waist. Keep your elbows in. It is very important to keep your elbows against your body, shoulder width apart, as much as possible. Okay? Even if you no matter what position you find yourself in, keeping those elbows in. Safety reason, if I go like this, I run the risk of tearing or blowing that shoulder out. And that is one thing that'll end your kayaking career permanently. All right, that's lesson number 2. We'll talk to you on the next video.